Dear students, my prime aim to discuss about the mass biospectroscopy. The mass biospectroscopy plays an important role and vital technique in the field of microstructural analysis of anatomic systems in physics, chemistry, biology and medical sciences, even in metallurgy. And this effect was discovered by R.L. Mossbauer in 1957, and it was awarded Nobel Prize for his great discovery in 1961. So the basic principle behind the mass biospectroscopy is recoilless emission or absorption of gamma ray photons. So it has been achieved by using a proper technique, by keeping the source as well as the absorber in a particular matrix. And normally the Mossbauer effect can be studied by using a matrix, and within this the nucleus can be kept as a massive mass. So this is called recoilless emission. How to achieve the recoilless emission? So normally a nucleus contains a large number of transitions are called various transitions, and these transitions has been made by emission or absorption of gamma ray photons. During the emission or absorption of gamma ray, there should be a recoil energy like that of a gun which recoils when firing a bullet. In atoms undergo various transitions by way of emission or absorption of gamma ray photons, and these transitions will changes from their environment, and from the environment the electronic states and the magnetic field associated with the atoms, and from that these energy transitions can be absorbed by another photon are called gamma ray photon. Then the possible transition can take place. And how to achieve the transitions? So the incident photon energy coincides with the energy transition between the nucleus, then there should be a resonance has been observed, and this resonance can be given a single absorption peak or emission peak, and that is called Mossbauer spectrum. So this spectrum can be deviated from the source as well as the absorber. Both the nucleus are in the identical conditions, we can get only one peak at 0 millimeter per second, and this variations has been observed by the chemical environment changes with respect to the absorber. Then we can get different transition has been observed. How this transition has been observed in the part of nucleuses, and this is called different agencies which produce the transitions or affect the transition energies by way of electronic configuration or the electronic movements, and also the magnetic field produced on the nucleuses. We have to make it as different process. One is called isomer shift, quadrupole splitting and magnetic field. The first one, isomer shift, which produce shift in the energy levels from this electronic environment of the nucleuses. So these electrons, we are having different types of electrons. S electrons are there, and these electrons, S electrons will affect the energy transitions, and this is due to some shift in the frequency of absorption of gamma ray by the nucleus, and it will give some shift in the spectral pattern, and it is called isomer shift. So for example, we have to take ion Mossbauer Fe57, which produces a splitting between the spectral lines, then we can call it as isomer shift. It depends upon the electronic environment. In the case of ferrous ion Fe2+, less number of electrons will produce much difference in the isomer shift when we go for Fe3+. So this Fe3+ having less isomer shift values than Fe2+ are called ferrous ions, and this is called isomer shift, which gives information about the electronic configuration, the number of S electrons present, and what are the neighboring atoms. We can call it as microstructure, and this is called isomer shift. The next, quadrupole splitting. The quadrupole splitting is nothing but the energy transition between I equal to 1/2 to 3/2 states. So these energy transitions has been split into larger I equal to 3 of values. Then these splittings have possible transition can take place, and in the case of quadrupole splitting, two transitions are possible between I equal to half and I equal to 3/2, and the distance between the two lines is called delta or called quadrupole splitting. So it also tells about the states of electrons present each and every energy level, and that is we can call it as quadrupole splitting. The next one, the magnetic movement, and this magnetic movement is nothing but Zeeman splitting. When we apply external magnetic field, the nuclear as well as the electrons presence within the nucleus undergoes transitions by way of splitting of energy levels. So normally we can have many different ways of total effective magnetic field are called the total effective magnetic field on the nucleus is split into the b orbital are called magnetic orbital interaction, then orientation as well as spinning of electrons along with applied magnetic field. So here we can call it as B contact is nothing but the electric polarization on the nucleus by electrons, and that is called B orientational. And another one, B splitting of electrons, that is due to spinning of orbital electrons around the nucleus will also produce another magnetic field, and the spinning of electrons itself will produce spin orbital magnetic movements. So these movements are associated with the atom itself, and another magnetic field we have to apply externally, and this external magnetic field we can call it as B external, which is nothing but Zeeman splitting. And these splittings has been produced within the I equal to plus or minus half and I equal to plus or minus 3 by 2, then we can get 6-line pattern. And this 6-line pattern we can normally call it as sextet of magnetic field, and this possible transition will give 6-line pattern are called Moss-Bayer spectrum. So this is for ion spectrum, and this has been studied only by using a reference sources are called calibration. So for that purpose, any Moss-Bayer spectrum we have to make use of an alpha ion foil, and it has been used as a standard. With respect to the alpha ion, then we can compare the values or splitting pattern between the lines, then we can say what is the isomer shift, quarter pole splitting and internal magnetic field. So these are the three parameters with respect to alpha ion we have to find out from the Moss-Bayer spectrum, and this we have to find out the microstructural analysis of any compound present within the sample. So in between, that is the Moss-Bayer spectrum we have to make, and this Moss-Bayer spectrum is completely depends upon the sources. Now what type of sources can be used as a Moss-Bayer sources? So to get a Moss-Bayer source, we have to concentrate two things. One is called low gamma energy values and the lifetime of the radioactive source. So what is meant by low energy levels? So normally that any atom having nucleus which oscillates having some frequencies, and this frequency of oscillations can have a energy spread, and this energy spread we can call it as recoil energy spread, along with the atoms always moving randomly thermal motion within the medium, and this produce are called Doppler energy spread. So these two energy spreads overlaps, and this call we can get in a resonance, and this resonance condition the absorption of gamma ray can take place. But actually it is not possible to get an energy spread. We have to reduce the energy spread both in recoilless as well as the Doppler effect by achieving another method, and this method we can call it as matrix. We have to attach the nucleus to be studied within a matrix, and the energy are called the momentum, recoil momentum produced by the emission of gamma ray can be reduced by way of phonons are called vibrations, which transmit the energy to the medium are called matrix, and by this way we have to reduce the recoil energy, and that reduced energy can be absorbed resonantly by the sample. To achieve a good Moss-Bayer spectrum, we have to choose a source which have low energy transitions and also having low Doppler shift, and for that purpose we have to, the number of elements can be used for Moss-Bayer spectrum has been shown in the periodic table by a red color, and most widely used sources are shown in black color, and that is normally in commercially available Moss-Bayer spectrometers they have to use iron 57, that is Fe57 as a source can be used, which has low energy values and also high half-life period. So normally this contains the energy difference is about 5 into 10 power minus 9 electron volts, and the energy of about 14.4 kilo electron volts, which is most suitable for studying of Moss-Bayer spectroscopy. And also with reference to the matrix, so we have to observe the resonance are called recoilless energy less photons by an absorber, and this absorber can be in a very thin foil, and this thin foil can capable of absorbing the gamma rays, and the possible transition has been achieved within the medium. Then we have to record or we have to count number of gamma ray photons emitted from the sample itself. So these are all the basic principles behind the Moss-Bayer spectroscopy. Now we have to discuss about the instrumentation part. So in the case of instrumentation, we have to make use of a source which produces gamma ray photon, and for that purpose we have to go for radioactive isotope cobalt 56, which emit a gamma ray and it becomes iron 57. And after that, a possible transition can take place by using a standard alpha ion foil. Now we have to record the spectrum and we have to get sextet, and this is called a source. Now we have to go for a sample compartment. Any sample we have to choose, and it should be make it as a thin foil, and it will absorb the gamma ray photons, and possible transition can take place, which depends upon the electronic environment and the magnetic field associated with the nucleus. And from that we have to make the transitions by using a sample compartment. After that, the gamma rays are emitted and it can be detected. So the detectors normally used are called proportional counters, or Geiger-Müller counters are commonly used. But most sensitive method, the proportional counters are most widely used for counting gamma ray photons, any Mossbauer spectrometer. So how to record the spectrum? So the spectrum has been recorded by moving the source or by vibrating the source for certain velocities, and that is the recoil emission energy can be reduced by moving the source to certain velocities, are called few millimeters per second, and this velocity can reduce the recoil energy, and it can be attached to a motor, and the sample can be vibrated through a frequency of few millimeters per second, and that is, we can call it as velocity coincidence. Just by changing the velocity of sample, we have to make the recoil energy or reduce the recoil energy of the gamma ray photon, and it can be resonantly absorbed by the sample, and it has been transmitted and it has been counted by a proportional counter, and the spectrum has been plotted versus velocity both in plus or minus few millimeter per second versus the number of counts. So the counts means the counted number of photons by proportional counter is fed to a computer, and it has been averaged out and make it as a Lorentzian curve shape, and that is normally in Mossbauer spectrum has been recorded in Lorentzian curve pattern. And this Lorentzian curve we have to make it as an average by using a least square curve fitting by mathematical operations, and we can get high resolution Mossbauer spectrum. And this spectrum we have to make use of the height of the peaks, then the intensity, or we can call it as intensity, then the spacing between the lines, and that is we have to get some information, and also the number of electronic environment, or called the position of the atom in any matrix, and this gives the position, or we can call it as isomer shift and quadrupole splitting, and this quadrupole splitting can also gives information about the possible transition between different electronic energy levels and the magnetic field. And this we have to apply some external magnetic field, we have to measure what are the possible transition can take place. All these measurements has been made by using a standard, already I told you, by using an alpha ion source. And with respect to the alpha ion source, the position of the band, height of the band, and also the spacing between the lines has been studied, and it has been established quadrupole splitting, isomer shift, as well as the magnetic ordering. And this process we have to change, that is all the 6 line patterns, the outermost 2 peaks cannot changes, and the innermost 2 peaks can changes due to the electronic environment. Suppose we are having less number of electrons present within the orbitals, then it will give an energy band along with some other ion present with more number of electrons in the s orbitals. The difference is we have to find out from the position of the central bands observed at Mossbauer spectrum. So these are all the changes normally observed in Mossbauer spectroscopy, and it has been most widely used for any microstructural analysis. Now for example, we have to go for any sample which contains ion as elements, and these elements has been identified, and from their spectral we have to say what are the position of the Fe present within the sample and how many electrons, that is either it is Fe3 plus, Fe2 plus, or we call metallic ions, or we can call it as oxides, FeOOH are called goethite, Fe2O3 hematite, or Fe3O4 magnetite. So within this we are having alpha hematite and gamma hematite, and these forms are from the electronic configuration we have to find out from the spectral pattern itself, and that is we can call it as microstructural analysis, which most widely used in any materials always contain some amount of iron, or even 5 to 10% of iron is present within the sample, it will give good Moss-Bayer spectrum. So these are all called basic instrumentation required, and what are the spectral pattern we have to record by using Moss-Bayer spectrometer. Now I want to discuss about what are the important applications of Moss-Bayer spectroscopy. So already I told you the Moss-Bayer spectroscopy will mainly deals with the presence of the sample will contains minimum of 5 to 10% of iron, then it is possible to record the Moss-Bayer spectrum. So naturally in almost all clay minerals, all naturally occurring minerals contain some amount of iron and the form of either FeOH, Fe2O3 or Fe3O4, or even sometimes metallic ions called Fe2 plus or Fe3 plus. We have to go for a ceramic materials, or either it should be a crystalline material or amorphous material, and both things we have to study by using Moss-Bayer spectrum. And by way of ceramics, for example, we are making ceramics by different ways, or by intrusion or doping of different elements on the ceramic materials, and it has been fired to very high temperatures to make a high quality ceramic materials. And what we have to use by using Moss-Bayer spectrum is we have to record the Moss-Bayer spectrum by heating the ceramic materials to different temperatures, and what are the changes can take place within the iron oxide minerals. So naturally the iron oxide minerals present in clay minerals like FeOOH are called goethite, and by firing the ceramic materials or amorphous material, the iron composition can changes from FeOH to Fe2O3, that is called oxidation process, and further heating to higher temperatures it becomes Fe3O4 or called magnetite, or in sometimes we have to make use of super paramagnetic Fe2O3, and this achievement has been made just by recording a single sample of ceramic samples. We have to confirm how much of temperature it has been fired from the structure of the iron present within the samples, and this is one process normally make use of in ceramic industries. And another important application in ferrites, and these ferrite materials are most widely used in electronic industries as a cooling material. And what are the composition? So normally the ferrites will contains different types of iron oxides with other alloys, and these alloys how it can be interact with the iron oxides, then it can be well established from the Moss-Bayer spectrum, and how much of iron is present and what are the composition of iron, either it should be in Fe3 plus, Fe2 plus, or it should be in the oxide forms. It can be confirmed by recording the Moss-Bayer spectra. The ferrite samples has been studied what are the temperature of firing. Now how it can be used. Now what are the changes in the iron present within the ferrites, and these are all the properties we have to study by using Moss-Bayer spectrum on ferrites. And in the case of clay minerals, in archaeology also it can be used by recording the Moss-Bayer spectrum of clay samples. So normally the archaeologists find some temperature of firing, and they developed some techniques to firing the archaeological materials by subjecting to different firing techniques. So normally they have to follow open firing and closed firing. One is called open firing, means they have to make use of some charcoal by clay materials has been fired under oxidizing conditions. The artisans are known about the firing temperature of clay products by way of firing it open firing or closed firing. In the case of open firing, they have to use charcoal, and they have to fire by allowing air on the archaeological potteries, and from that the iron composition of the clay minerals is in a goethite form, and during firing it has been changes into hematite or magnetite. But in the case of open firing of archaeological materials, it becomes magnetite or called Fe3O4. Just by refiring the samples, so we have to collect the archaeological samples, then refire it in our laboratory to different temperatures, and we have to compare with the Moss-Bayer spectrum. Then we can say what are the technique they have to follow by the artisans, and what will be the maximum temperature limit to firing the archaeological potteries. And that is the first conclusion normally made for any archaeological materials. And the second one, the coloration. So the archaeologists are making use of certain oxides coating on the potteries, and they have to make different colored potteries, either red color, red and black, or black ware. So just by coating some oxide, iron oxide materials, and the coloring mechanism has been achieved by the artisans, and which are the materials normally used. So certain oxides has been coated, that is called iron oxides, which contains maximum of hematite, and during firing it completely becomes a red color, and from that we have to say the coating has been done by iron oxide materials and rich of hematite, and this is the first case. When we go for black or grey color potteries, and they have to make use of some magnetite. So the magnet has been used as a coating material, and when firing the potteries it becomes completely Fe3O4, then the color has been changes from even to grey or black color, and this is another process they know how to make in a black colored potteries. And also we have to make use of type of clay minerals they have to use, whether should be in a fine grain variety or coarse grain varieties, and this has been finely studied by using Moss-Baer spectrum. That is called we have translocation of materials, and the technological development of artisans has been well established by recording the Moss-Baer spectrum, and this is in the case of archaeological materials. Now it can be also used for medical purposes. So normally in applications are in medical field, the human hemoglobins. The hemoglobins contains Fe ions, and these Fe ions changes from their configuration due to some diseases. So recently they have a recorded Moss-Baer spectrum of a hemoglobin affected by a malaria patient, and it has two different forms of ion. One is called Fe free ion, another one pigment ions. The pigment ion rate increases up to 28%, then the person is affected by malaria. And by this way, in medical field also the Moss-Baer spectrum has been most widely used in the study of disease incidence, and very particularly malaria has been studied successfully. So very recently the Moss-Baer spectrum has been most widely used, or it has been devised by an Israel scientist called portable Moss-Baer spectrometer, and this Moss-Baer spectrometer is attached to a Mars rover craft. That is, it has been sent to Mars by a rover craft. It has recorded the Moss-Baer spectrum of surface soils of a Mars surface, and it will give information about the presence of hematite. Then normally we can call it as Mars is a red planet, and this red color has been coming from the soil itself. That is, the soil will contains maximum amount of hematite, and it has reflected on the Moss-Baer spectrum recorded by the Moss-Baer spectrometer attached to a rover craft in the Mars itself. Then it has been received by the NASA scientists, and it has been published very recently. That is, the Mars surface will contain more amount of hematite, and these are all the most applications of Moss-Baer spectroscopy. It has been also used in many wider fields. To summarize the Moss-Baer spectroscopy, so first of all we have to see what is called a Moss-Baer effect. Now we have to define the Moss-Baer effect properly, and what are the sources normally used as a Moss-Baer sources, and we have discussed elaborately. And iron 57 is most widely used as a Moss-Baer source, and what are the detectors normally we have seen are called instrumentation used for Moss-Baer spectroscopy. Source, sample compartment, and source vibration are called motor attached to a sample compartment. Then the detectors are called proportional counters as detector, and how the Moss-Baer spectra has been recorded. So all these things we have to discuss elaborately, and we have to go for applications. So what are the applications of Moss-Baer spectroscopy in the field of archaeology, geological materials, then even medicine. So these are all the important applications we have discussed of the Moss-Baer spectroscopy.